Good enough, we are rolling. For those of you listening at home, howdy. We're going over the chapter 13 test. Take out your favorite red writing utensil. Let's correct this thing. 13%, here we go. Number one, let me read off the answers. And then after I read off all the answers, I'll go through any problems that you want to see dissected. But jot down these. If these are exact the answers that you have, you don't have to write it down. But any answers that's different from the one you have, please write down the correct answers. Everybody clear?
Yes.
Red writing utensil at the ready. Test in front of you. Something to write on, in other words. Number one, two solutions. X equals 7. X equals -3. Number two, n equals -8. N equals -4. Number three, x equals 7. X equals -5. Number four, x equals 4. X equals -2. I'm going to repeat so far. All right, number 5. I'll accept two answers here. You could just write v equals -3 and leave it, or you could write v equals -3, v equals -3. If you write it once or twice, it really doesn't matter. Number 6. X equals 1. X equals -1. Please do not forget to do plus minus when you square root. Number 7. If you had plus or minus the square root of 50, that's correct, but you need to reduce. Plus or minus 5 radical 2. So p equals 5 radical 2, p equals -5 radical 2. And do get in the habit of putting p equals or x equals or the letter equals. And it repeats up number 7. Okay, number 8. X equals radical 62. X equals negative radical 62. You're writing this, correct? Yeah.
Is it alright?
It would help, yes. Stay with us. Number 8. X equals radical 62. X equals negative radical 62. Go ahead.
Is it alright if you did x equals plus or minus radical 62?
Yes, I'll accept that. As long as it's plus minus. If it's just x equals radical 62 period, I'll take off 5 out of 10. Everybody good? Okay, number 9 and number 10, I was looking for complete the square. So if somebody gave up and did quadratic formula or factoring or something like that, that doesn't apply.
Did you take up all the points?
If you try logically at all, I rarely take off all the points. The only time I take off all the points is if somebody just recopies the original problem and then doesn't do anything, or if they just leave it blank.
That's what happened.
Like even if you like get the answer equal to 0 and then stop, I'll usually give you 1 or 2 points for that, because that is a logical thing to do. Number 9, two solutions. X equals 2, x equals 8. Number 10,
What is it?
x equals 2, x equals 8. Number 9. Number 10, x equals 1 plus radical 11, x equals 1 minus radical 11. If you had x equals 1 plus or minus radical 11, that's fine. And it repeats up to number 10. All right, number 11, what is the quadratic formula? And by the way, you do have one more chapter to do your speed quiz thingy on that, but not this instant. What is the quadratic formula? X equals, please don't forget x equals. That's the whole point of the formula. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Make sure that the square root goes all the way over b squared minus 4ac, and that the division bar covers everything on top. It's all over 2a, not just partially.
How much extra credit did I get for doing the quadratic formula thing and all?
Depends on how fast you did it. If you beat my record, you got plus 10. If you beat 5 seconds, you get plus 5. Yeah.
What's your record?
2.14 seconds. Moving on. Number 12. Solve with the quadratic formula. You have to get the answer down to 0 first. Two solutions for number 12. X equals 3. X equals -5/2. Make sure you reduce.
What is it?
X equals 3. X equals -5/2. Got that? Number 13, there are two solutions. X equals radical 3 over 2, and x equals negative radical 3 over 2. If you had plus or minus radical 3 over 2, that's fine. If you have 0 plus or minus radical 3 over 2, I think I might have let it go, although that can be simplified. 0 plus anything doesn't do anything, so you just drop it. Have it a good number up to number 13? Number 14, the vertex of the parabola is negative 4 comma 2. There should be a solid dot at negative 4 comma 2. And then the pattern should go over 1, up 1, put 2 dots, then start over at the vertex, over 2, up 4. Over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 3, up 9, although that was off screen. And that will give you your parabola. Make sure you have arrows going up and to the right and left for that parabola. And make sure you follow the pattern. Yeah.
Would you give point offs if we didn't have the arrows?
Yes. And by the way, if you don't have any arrows on yours and I missed it, Merry Christmas. Number 15. They said find the discriminant. The discriminant is the number, not the square root of the number. Gentlemen. B squared minus 4ac, not the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So number 15, the discriminant is negative 140. Negative 140, not the square root of negative 140, which is different. So the discriminant is negative 140, and that means there are no real solutions. If you put 2 non-real solutions, congratulations, you got plus 1 extra credit. Number 16, the discriminant is 64. That means there are 2 real solutions. Number 17, the discriminant is 0, which means there is 1 real solution. 1 real solution.
Wait,
Yep.
say that again.
Yeah, number 17, the discriminant is 0, and that means there's 1 real solution. Number 18, the discriminant is 4, which means there are 2 real solutions. And it repeats up to number 18. All right. Number 19, solve by any valid method you like. If there's no real solution, say so, but show your work to prove your answer. Number 19, there is no solution, because eventually you'll try and square root a negative number, which is not possible. You'll get no real solutions. Once you see the square root of a negative, that's really all you need to show. Then you just say, can't square root a negative, no real solution, end of problem. Number 20, I use the quadratic formula. You can use complete the square or whatever you want. I got p equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 33 all over 2. And if you split it up, it would be negative 1/2 plus or minus the square root of 33 over 2. Okay. That was number 20. 21, extra credit. Which of those would have a discriminant of 0? Choice D. Because a discriminant of 0 means there's 1 real solution. And in that one burst of notes, there's another name for a solution, x-intercept. A solution is an x-intercept. So if there's 1 solution, there's 1 x-intercept. And choice A has no x-intercepts, choice B has 2, choice C has none, and choice D has 1, which is what we want. The retake is going to have a question a lot like that. I may switch it around. Question.
What was I gonna say?
I can get a screen too. For the people watching at home, this probably would have been really boring. There you go. Hi, I'm still here. Go ahead.
So,
Gentlemen, need to hear. Ladies.
how much extra credit would you normally get if you got that right?
It kind of depends. The 21, 22, let me look. There were a total of 10 points plus 2 for 21 is the maximum.
Well, okay, so for mine.
22 was plus 3 and 23 was plus 5.
Okay, so for mine, well, it's kind of confusing to explain.
Okay.
But, so I did D, and then I said because it crosses once over the x-axis, and 0 goes 1 is a real solution. Yeah.
Let me look.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing. So, you said you, put once right there, but I have once right here. Crosses ones over the,
Oh, no, I could read that. There, I'll give it to you. still runs up, but you get the bragging rights now. All right, we good for number 21? 22, does this quadratic factor or not? If you did b squared minus 4ac, you got this monster number 66,564, 66564. That's a perfect square. It's 258 squared. So yes, the thing factors. And if anybody, God help you if you actually tried to factor it, the thing would hurt. It does factor into 13x minus 7 and 17x minus 29 if you magic paired it, and then spent 25 years going through like 240 pairs. So yeah.
This is kind of funny. You said I got this one right when I actually got it wrong. No, I'm not even joking.
What? Oh, I got a second.
What? This one. So I'm assuming that's not the answer.
Oh, no. This is, I gave you, this would have been +3 if you get the whole thing. I gave you got partial credit. Because you got everything right.
I was
except that.
wondering.
And you're welcome. Everybody good? Number 23. You'd have to solve by completing the square. That's actually the hardest of the three methods to do here. But it's x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 13 all over 2. If you did them individually, it would be 5 over 2 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2.
You don't need the extra credit.
Any questions? I'm going to repeat something. All right.
I forgot the 2.
Questions? Any of those you want to see dissected? By the way, keep an eye to the retakes. The quarter will not last forever, and there is a break coming up, which has a tendency to do bad things to people's ability to remember math. So I'd say the sooner you retake this test, the better. Starting Monday, plan ahead. Yes, ma'am. 10, yes. Yes, negative 87 minus 8. This is number 10. Negative 87 minus 18x.
Oh my goodness.
How about we keep things a little under control? Go ahead and grab it, but what's the problem? I heard something bounce, which means I assume somebody dropped something. Correct? Thank you very much. Equals negative 9x squared plus 3x. Now, even if you're not worried about this problem, I would like your polite attention. Thank you. That way, please. You need to get the answer down to 0 in order to solve this. So take your pick of which side you want to make 0. I made the right-hand side 0. So I add 9x squared, and I subtracted 3. Here's what I got. 9x squared minus 18x. There should not be chit-chat. Should be listening and quiet. And then negative 87 and negative 3 make negative 90. So there's the first one. Okay. So solve by completing the square. I'm going to add the opposite, add the opposite. The first step in complete the square is get it equal to 0. So we just did. Second step is to cancel the c. So this is step 1. Cancel the c, but leave a blank. So you're going to add 90 to both sides. So 9x squared plus negative 18x plus blank equals 90. There were several people who tried a different method other than completing the square. Make sure you know how to complete the square. Front question.
Could you do the GCF of 9?
That's coming next. That's step 3. If you do the GCF early, you're actually going to mess up your answer, possibly. So don't do it too early. If you're doing algebra or factoring or something, then definitely. Yeah. So now we pull out a 9. And it's x squared plus negative 2x plus blank equals, and 90 is safe on the other side. Does that make sense? So set it equal to 0, then cancel the c, which is the number at the end, leave a blank, and then undistribute the a, which in this case is 9. Number 4, hey, let me just get this off before we get out of your way. Number 4, compress press it into a binomial squared. This thing, this parentheses, should squish into a binomial squared. But it's square the first, double the product, square the last, to figure out where it came from. The 9 is on it. By the way, don't throw away the 9, you still need it. X squared must have come from what? Actually, Brenda, no, yeah.
X.
X. And where did this come from?
-1.
Yeah, -1 or plus -1. Where did you get that?
-2 divided by 2. Well, yeah,
Right.
you multiply.
Cut it in half. Good. So what number should have been in this last blank?
2. -2. No. No.
We didn't have plus. Square the first, double the product.
Square the 1.
One.
-1.
Very good.
Yeah, 1.
Square the last. -1 squared is +1. You can do that. See the extra weight over here? Eric, take over. I've got +1 here, which is fine as long as I do it too.
Both sides.
Is that right?
No.
No, what's wrong?
It's because it's multiplied by numbers.
It's 9 times bigger than we thought it was. Correct. So what is it really? You're really adding what?
9.
9. So what is the total? This is what you have in row 4. Don't try and expand it back out. Don't try and put a number here. That's only temporary. I just want to make sure I balance the other side. That's the only reason I put anything here. This is what I'm looking at really carefully. 9 parentheses x minus 1 squared equals 99. Clear? Let me put it up here so I don't have to stoop. So 9 parentheses x minus 1 squared equals 99. Depending on whether you want to solve or graph, solving, you just start doing algebra, because you got one species of x, which is a very good thing. If you're graphing, get the answer equal to 0, and that'll give you your vertex. So, Jack Gilbert, take over. What do you do to get x by itself? What do you get rid of first? Sorry? I'd love to, but there's something further away. The 9. The exponent is sitting on its head. 9 is actually further out. So how do you get rid of the 9?
Divide both sides by 9.
Right. What do you get so far? Cancel.
X minus 1 squared equals 9 or 11.
11. Good. What do you do to get rid of that next layer? Mary, take over. What do you do? I'm solving. Yeah. How many answers?
2 answers.
Good. What kind?
Positive, negative.
Positive, negative. So these cancel. What do you have so far?
X minus 1 equals plus or minus radical.
Correct. Jana, take over. What do we still need to get rid of? I want to get x by itself.
You add 1,
Yes. As long as you do it too.
both sides.
Where would you put that +1 so as not to confuse anybody? Should I put it here?
No.
No, because then it would look like the square root of 12.
The,
What's that?
just under somewhere.
Kind of, sort of.
Under, right there.
All right.
Not there.
Now, when I rewrite it, where should I put it? What does it look like from beginning to end? Man, Jacker, take over.
1 plus or minus radical.
Yeah, put the 1 in front so it doesn't confuse anybody. Otherwise, it'll look like the square root of 11 plus 1, which is the square root of 12. This is as far as you can go. So that's your solution. Make sense? Next, yeah. 13. Let me look. Yes. Solve with the quadratic formula. 14x squared minus 3. Let me just do it over here. Equals 10x squared. Ironically enough, you could solve this with algebra, which is the easiest method. But they're insisting the quadratic formula needs to be used. So first thing you need to do, get the answer down to 0. I would subtract 10x squared from both sides. Line up the like terms. You should have 4x squared minus 3 equals 0. So that's your first step. Now I need to know, for quadratic formula, I need to know A, B, and C. A is the coefficient for x squared. B is the coefficient for x. C is the coefficient for just the plain old number. So Catherine, what would A be? What is A? So what was that? 4. What's b? Very good, it's 0. What this really is 4x squared plus 0x plus negative 3. And then what's c? Good, negative 3. Now you plug it in. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. So what goes, actually keep talking me through it. What goes here? 0, negative b, plus or minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4, and then what? Negative 3, good. And then this would be 4. Excellent. Take over, Andy. Simplify.
0.
0.
Plus minus 0 minus, oh no, plus.
Plus, very good.
16 times 3,
Which
which
is
is 48.
48, good. All over?
8.
8. What's 0 plus or minus anything? What does that do?
Nothing.
Nothing. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 48 over 8. Are we done? Rob, are we done? Is that the final answer? Why not? You can reduce. What perfect square is in 48? There's several possible answers to this. 16, don't whisper. But 16 times what? 3. You could have pulled out a 4 too. It would be 4 times 12. Just be aware a 12 has another perfect square, another 4. So what is radical 16 times 3? What is, boil it down. 4 radical 3, plus or minus. So it looks like this. X equals plus or minus 4 radical 3 over 8. Does anything reduce? Isabel?
The 4 and the 8.
4 and the 8. They reduce down to what?
2 and 4.
4 and 8 go down to, well, what goes into both of them, first of all? What numbers?
2.
Divide, definitely 2. Cut these both in half. 4 over 8
4.
becomes 2 over 4. And then that cuts in half to
2.
1 over 2. So your final answer should be x equals plus or minus, you don't need the 1, although you can put it there if you want. Radical 3 over 2. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right.
Can you do 7?
7. Let me take a look. Yeah, taking square roots. Now again, if the worksheet says taking square roots, it means algebra. Algebra means you eventually take the square root. So you get rid of the square. Ever still with us? Let's take a look. Number 7. 7p squared plus 6 equals 356. So you tell me, actually Brendan, talk me through it. What do you do first?
Minus 356.
You could, although this is algebra.
Oh, this up, yeah. So minus 6.
Minus 6, yeah. So you can do it faster than normal. So minus 6 on both sides. What do you have so far?
7p squared equals 350.
Right. Now what?
Divide by 7.
Good. Everybody look up here real fast. If you try and square root this, it will be a disaster. First of all, because you can have the square root of 7 over here, and the square root of 350 is nasty. Divide by 7 first. It's further away than the square anyway. So what do you get so far? P squared equals what?
P squared equals 50.
50. Good. Now what? Let me see. Andy, take over.
U squared.
Square root. How many answers?
2.
2. What kind?
Positive.
Positive and negative. So P is equal to plus or minus the square root of 50. Are we done? Rosie? Is that our final answer? What's wrong?
Yeah.
Like the radical can like split.
Yes, what radical are you thinking?
So it's x
It's the perfect square that goes into 50.
plus 4.
Five.
25 times what? 2, good. So what is radical 25 really?
5.
Yeah, so this is really what?
5 radical 2.
Good. So your final solution should be plus or minus 5 radical 2.
Oh,
And Catherine, you had one.
6 and 14.
14. Well, look. Yes, find the parabola. Finding the vertex means completing the square, but don't solve it at the end. Get the back equal to 0. Step 5 in complete the square has 2 options, one for graph and one for solve. X squared plus 8x plus 18. Be careful here. Just out of curiosity, did anybody try the quadratic formula on this thing? If you tried for number 14, if you tried the quadratic formula, you would have gotten non-real answers, non-real solutions, I mean. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Before I leave, I gotta tell you the difference between a solution and an answer.
okay.
Yeah, there were a couple people where I circled it and it said, okay, but this is not an answer, it's a solution. I'll explain why in a minute. Step 1, set it equal to 0. Step 2, cancel the C and leave a blank. Step 3, undistribute the A, which in this case, you don't have to. This is step 1, 2, 3 is identical. Step 4 is compress this into a binomial squared. Where'd it come from? Square the first is from x. This is from 4. Double the product is 8, so undouble it. Take over, Maria. What should have gone here?
16.
Yes, how do you get that? Square the left. You can put plus 16 here, that's fine, as long as you do it too. What do you get really? How much? Negative 2. Look at step 4. That's what you should have on your paper. Step 4 should have x plus 4 parentheses squared equals negative 2. This is forever gone. We're not going to play with it anymore. Gentlemen, focus up here, please. Now, normally you just start solving for x. I would not this time, because they didn't ask you to solve. They asked you to graph. To graph, get the answer back equal to 0. We now have x plus 4 squared plus 2 equals 0. The very last step is put the y back where you found it. Does anybody recognize that form? Yeah.
It's a parabola, vertex.
Vertex form. Now vertex form looks like this. Y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus, okay, there's something wrong with the form. Go. Here's the form they gave us. What's wrong? There's one little thing wrong.
It has to be negative before it has to be
Yes.
negative.
So is there a way to do that legally?
Yes.
Do it.
Minus negative 4.
Oh, what number would you use in front, by the way?
1.
1 is fine. And then x minus what?
Negative 4.
Good. Minus and negative is the same as plus. X minus negative 4 squared plus 2. What's the vertex?
10.
What comma what? Anybody? Go.
Negative 4 2.
Negative 4, comma 2. Question?
Well, I have 2 questions.
Uh,
Number 1, what would happen if you need? Oh, yeah, that. I was wondering if what would happen if you needed a positive? The 4 would be positive and that would be wrong.
right. Correct.
Also, how do you get it where there's going to be like a number in front of the x minus negative 4? Like,
Oh, a number in front?
yeah.
Oh, it's kind of like we did it earlier. If there had been a number in front here.
Oh,
If you pull it out, there'd been like a 9 in front, there'd still be a 9 in front here.
that's it.
Yeah, so this one, do the parabola pattern. Start at negative 4 comma 2, over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 3, up 9, which is off screen, over 4, up 16, etc. Any other questions? Yeah. 12, let me see. Yes, quadratic formula. Okay, if you are going over answers with each other, I do not mind, but make sure you whisper so I can hear over you. And make sure you're focused on actual math. I can tell. 2x squared minus x, trust me, it's not that hard. Minus 18 equals negative 3. So number 12, quadratic formula only works if you have the answer equal to 0. Add 3 to both sides. So you get 2x squared minus x minus 15 equals 0. I'm going to add the opposite, So question, no math people. I want A, B, and C. So Maria, help me out. What's A?
2.
2. What's B?
Negative 1.
Good. Negative 1. What's C?
Negative 15.
Those are the numbers used with the quadratic formula. Are we clear? Let's try this. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC, all divided by 2A. Let's do it. Negative something plus or minus the square root of something squared minus 4 something something. All over 2 times something. That's what I do on my answer keys. So actually, hey Doctor, take over. Down. That's when I start getting. Anyways, what do you put here? Good. It's negative 1. The fact that there's a negative in the formula doesn't change the fact that there's another negative in the number. Does it? Good. How about here? 2 and this? Good. Negative 15 and this is over 2 times 2. Simplify for me. Catherine. What's this? 1 plus or minus the square root of. I did say that I was still evaluating seating charts, yeah. You might want to keep that in the back of your mind when you start getting a little rambunctious, because you can lose the seating chart at the drop of a hat. Okay? I'd like to keep you there. I have no vested interest in making you miserable, but I will make you miserable if it's good for your soul, so, or for your math. Keep in mind. So here, go for it. 1. And you notice? Positive. And then 4 times 2 times 15. What is 4 times 2, first of all? 8. 8 times 15. You know what that is up here? You can do it on paper too. 15 times 8. One way you can do it is 8 times 10 and 8 times 5 and put it together. Very good, 120. All over what? 4. Nice. Somebody simplify this. Go. What's this going to be?
121.
Does that come out evenly?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is it? Square root of 121 is?
1 plus 1 is square root, and just 11.
11. All over?
4.
4. That should give you 2 answers. So finish it off for me. Hey, Jeffrey. What's the first answer? X equals what?
12 over 4.
12 over 4, which is what? 3. Good. And what's the other one?
Negative 10 over 4, which
Yep.
is negative 5 over 2.
You got it. Does that make sense? Alrighty. Quick question?
Can you do 19 and 20?
Maybe. Hang on a second. Oh, solve by any valid method. Yikes. We're getting a little close. Maybe I can do those on Monday. Remind me, because I'm probably going to spaz on that. I'll take like 5 minutes. It shouldn't take very long. But I will say, get the answer to 0. And probably the easiest way is do the quadratic formula for both of them. There's something to go on for now. I promised that I would show you the difference between solution and answer. This, by the way, I haven't done this for a long time, but when I was teaching first year algebra in my second job, I think, I've had 4 since then. One in Illinois, 2 in Wisconsin, and 1 here. And let me see. How did I put this? Yes, here we go. It's up to you. My hearing must be going back. What's the answer? Let me know. It's what? The answer is 18. What's the solution? Beats the heck out of me. Solution is x by itself. The answer is whatever's after the equal sign. Big difference. I used to do that. I did that as an extra credit question on a test, and it said, and I made this horrible. I mean, I threw in like square roots and like to the power of 3.2, and you know, it was just that people were, their eyes were like super big, except the people who knew the trick, and it was all equal to 2 or something like that. And I said, what's the answer? 2. Whatever's after the equal sign is the answer. Whatever these are not answers; these are solutions. The answer was -3.
Well, technically.
Because they're after the equal sign? Okay, that's funny. But technically, when you have x equals, that's called a solution. When you have blah, 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 equals a number, that's the answer. I suppose in a certain sense, these are miniature answers, but they're also solutions.
It's like a square and a rectangle.
So what's that?
It's like a square and a rectangle.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not necessarily a square. Yeah.
One that has
You
four.
didn't learn that? A rectangle, all it needs, a rectangle is 4 sides. The opposite sides are the same length, and the opposite sides are parallel, and there's 90-degree angles. Rectangles do that, and squares do that. A square is a perfect rectangle. A rectangle is not a square, actually, unless it's perfect. So, are there any rectangles in the world that are squares? Yes, the ones that are perfect. They have the exact same length all around. Are there any squares that are rectangles? Yep, every last one of them. It's sort of like, if you belong to the human race, you can also belong to the cross-country skiing club. So, you could say, hey, does every human belong to the cross-country skiing club? Well, no. Does every member of the cross-country skiing club human? Yeah, as far as I know. We don't allow dogs. Getting the little skis on them is really awkward.
The buffalo.
I won't even go there. So, last minute questions.
They have paws.
We're just about at the end. By the way, there's one last day without homework. Don't get used to it.
Thank you. I haven't had homework in like a week.
I say don't keep used
But
to it.
it's okay. Literature has like built
Yeah.
that up.
Next week, we're going back into chapter 14. We have a worksheet that's, I think I haven't checked out yet, correct? So have that ready, make sure it's not lost. Any other questions? All right. Just go ahead and spend a minute and a half letting the brains cool off. We will pray momentarily. Oh.
I drew a picture of you, Rob.
That's beautiful.
Yes. Now will that again, that was a great game. You people fought like wild animals. That was impressive. You fought for every point there. I was really proud. All right, it is that time. Please stand.
Yep, click the button, you guys.
Isabel, can you click the button?
Click the button.
Oh yes, thank you. Was that running over? Oops.
Should I?
I'll have to edit that when I get home.